to order. We'll all rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we need a motion to deviate. So move. Second?
Sure.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Sheriff's Department.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the
Yeah.
minutes of August 7th and August 9th.
Yeah, what do you need?
I wasn't here, I can't do that.
I so move.
I'll second
All in favor?
Okay,
Aye. Okay, set our next meeting date.
okay.
If we're staying with the second Wednesday of the month, that would be
Okay.
Tuesday,
I'll come,
October
I'm
8th.
in the
but there's
back
one
room
thing
right
I'd
now.
like to check
I'll come
on
in
that.
there and pick it.
Tuesday.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Wednesday the 9th. All
Yeah.
right, Wednesday the 9th. That's
You can do it Tuesday.
Too many meetings on Tuesdays.
my
Thank you.
mistake. My mistake.
Bye.
Wednesday
Okay.
the 9th.
October 9th, 3:30. Okay, Sheriff, you're up with your...
Okay. At this time, I'd like to call forward Deputy Sheriff Jeff Bittner for swearing in. As he's going by, Jeff, I'll introduce you to the public safety members. Public Safety Vice Chair Bert Huntington and Mike McClellan is chairman.
We're getting this straight up. Yeah.
Ron Cooper and Ken Capelli. Mr. Jeff Bittner. Jeff, if you want to stand over here in front of the flag, I'll stand over here.
I thought our next meeting was...
Okay, raise your right hand.
No,
Repeat
that's
after me,
awesome.
Jeff.
Special meeting.
I, Jeffrey Bittner,
Be sworn to the office of Deputy Sheriff
be sworn to the office of Deputy Sheriff
in and for Shawano County, State of Wisconsin.
in and for Toronto County, State of Wisconsin.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully execute
and will faithfully execute
the duties of Deputy Sheriff
the duties of Deputy Sheriff
for Shawano County
for Toronto County
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
I then, on the 11th day of September in the year 2013, officially appoint you to the office of Deputy Sheriff in and for Shawano County, Wisconsin. Jeff? Congratulations. We'll take some pictures.
Did you get your pictures?
We're taking those too, huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can get up here, move around wherever you like.
Yeah.
Get
You don't
him
think
a hug,
Barb
take a
called
picture.
about the next meeting, do you?
Did you want one, maybe with us raising the right hand?
You don't
As
think
though I'm
Barb
swearing her in?
Natalie?
misunderstood.
Yeah, we'll flip flop. I'll make it work. I'll cancel mine.
Okay.
Here's raising the right hand.
We had,
It's gonna be-
we had.
I didn't realize this was gonna be at home that same day, because some of the same people have to roll.
Finance.
I'll move my meeting.
I can't read that.
Taking
Okay.
pictures.
There
We
we
had a
go.
meeting yesterday for, AV.
You sure can. Would you like me to take one?
Okay.
Or with oh, okay, sure. Come on up. Come on up.
And the jail administrator said I can give you a hug.
There you go.
There you go.
Oh, that's nice. He'll talk to you.
Now, what I advised Jeff, and I kind of mentioned to you, is if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's fine. There'd be a lot of things that might be a little boring to you or whatever. But if Jeff wanted to take you for a tour around the sheriff's office place, that'd be up to him. He said maybe a little later, but I guess I'll leave it up to you folks now, so.
Very good, thank you.
Congratulations. Nice young man. Congratulations. Jeff, again, congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Congratulations. And then we'll show Tony.
There you go.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You jumped over public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Why did everybody look at me right away?
Seeing no public.
Well, I don't know, maybe there is some. I guess the public left. It's just that you jumped over
Well, I
it.
understand, but I knew all those people were for Jeff.
Okay.
But you're right, I did do that. But I was allowed to be.
Right, correct.
Okay, law enforcement, we're looking at the review and approve the bids pursuant to RFP for jail digital video recording system. Steve, you're up.
That's an awful lot of words.
It's terrible, I didn't write it though.
Okay, about a year or so ago, roughly, it was, we received money through our 1% account and through the jail assessment account for $123,800 that we anticipated we needed for the upgrade of the DVR system, which at the time I said was woefully lacking. It takes, like I said a couple times, I think to you folks, it takes about 15 minutes to go through 30 seconds of video. It's not good. You wouldn't have it in your house. So we need to upgrade it. So with that, we put out the bids, which took some time because it's got to go through, the maintenance director. It's got to go through corporation counsel. It's got to go through all these things, and then they submit them. The bid itself isn't this large. Yeah, the bid itself isn't that large for this company, which is
So we only
SGTS.
had one company bid?
We had two companies bid.
Okay.
SGTS, who is currently our maintenance. We have a maintenance agreement with them to try to piecemeal what we have available. They did a bid on it, and so did Legacy, out of Sherwood, Wisconsin. This is not. This whole thing isn't a bid. We asked them for 4 copies.
Okay.
So this is what it is. In here, I'm guessing there should be a dollar figure. I've never had to open one of these up before, so I'm kind of new to this game. But here we go. For surety for amount of $125,000.
That's the SGTS,
It's SGTS.
125.
And Legacy. Somebody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some lucky bugger.
And you asked for 4 copies of this one also?
Actually, I was mistaken. We asked for 3. Sarah just gave us an extra one. Or SGTS. I just.
One that's marked with the green.
You see the number here?
10% bid amount.
See, I didn't open these up until I got here because I figured I better not.
Oh, right there.
And Total including costs not to exceed lump sum costs for jail upgrade, $117,222.
117?
117,222. So we're talking about an $8,000 difference.
$8,000 difference, $7,800.
How much money do you have spent?
I believe it was 123,
800.
123.8. So one came in. No, we didn't tell them that.
I understand
You
that.
know, so one came in roughly $2,200 or $1,200 over, and one $3,000 less. Again, new to this, but my thinking is also that for the price of $7,000, the first time we did this, the cost, I don't believe any of you were on the board, on the committee at that time, but Kenny will remember, there was about $150,000 difference between the bids. $50,000 between the bids. And we thought that maybe something in the RFP or the document was so misleading that somebody interpreted it differently. So we went back and found out, no, they were talking apples to apples and oranges to oranges. One company just said, you can't do what you want to do for that price, which was the lower price. You can't do it, it won't work.
Which they were right.
Which they were right, which was this company. And we've been paying them ever since to fix things. And they said,
They were the company that said you can't do it.
can't do it for that price, and
Let's
theirs
get our-
was significantly.
Let's get our apples. and
Yeah,
our-
theirs was significantly higher, and said, good luck. And they were right. But here, we have such a small difference. What I would like to do, I think, is in the document bid document, we ask for other jails, other agencies where they put these things in, and they have to give us a list of 3 to 5 other agencies. I would like to see if I can get into those 3 or 5 other agencies, see what they have, talk to the people who use that stuff, because this is a small amount of money.
Yeah, but we have to accept a bid today, correct?
Today's
Today's our bid opening, we have to
It's our bid
accept
opening.
or reject.
Do you have to, I guess that'd be for Tony, do you have to accept one bid over the other right now? Or because it's such a horse race, can we look at the other things that were, nobody's read this document yet. Nobody's read this yet.
Well, I've
So I don't
seen-
know if on page 27, it's not gonna say, oh, by the way, if you wanna do the rest of what you want, it's gonna cost you an extra $100,000.
Normally, when you have a bid opening, no, you gotta,
You should have it all front.
Normally you award to the lowest bid contingent that you go through and that they're comparable. That you're comparing apples
Okay.
to apples.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen that before, so I don't think the committee, if they choose to, would be, I think they'd be fine with awarding it to that legacy at 117,222. Upon, you could even say Corp Council approval or whatever. You look at the wording in both documents and you're getting what you asked for.
Contingent on document review and
but what you're saying is you would rather have these other guys for.
I'm not saying that in particular. I'm saying I want to see their product. I want to see their product.
How would you fund for SGTS when they're over your amount of money?
I would have to ask for some more of the. I would have to ask for if that's the way you wanted to go, an additional $2,200 or whatever from my 1% account. 1,200 from the 1% account.
Which is peanuts when you're talking this much money.
I didn't say that.
$1,000.
Yeah.
$1,000 in this county is a lot of money.
Yes, it is. So John had a rather Solomon-like decision there. Very good. I suppose we can approve the lower one if that's what you want to do, contingent upon document review and review of sites that have the limit.
Well,
Should. call Tony once and see what he's, here, I got it in my.
Oh, you don't have, what are you gonna ask Tony?
If we can do that, I guess.
Well, if you're worried about it.
I wanna do it right.
Yeah.
Should we have someone else maybe call Bert and we move on to another one until we get answers?
Move on to something, move on to the coroner's report temporarily.
Or I could go on to my second thing on the list.
We'll go to coroner's report.
What he has right
Can
now.
take it.
What from
Yep.
these people.
Hi Lynn, hey, is Tony available for a quick question?
Yeah, yeah.
Ken, what do you think? Do you know how this
I'm
works?
over
Well, I
at
guess,
public safety.
I'll entertain a motion as Steve presented it.
Oh, just wait.
Approval contingent upon the information that you find out, and if there's, you come up with some sort of problem that you feel you have to bring back to the committee, then you bring it back to the committee.
So which bid are we approving?
Yeah,
The
which
lowest?
Each one.
The lowest bid?
The lowest bid, okay, we're gonna let it go at that then, no, never mind. Or if
That's
he
the one
comes in
you're
in the next few
recommending, Steve,
minutes,
is
have
it
him
not?
call me back.
That's the one you're recommending, isn't it?
That's the one that John came, and it sounds real good to me.
All right, bye.
I was the sheriff for Tom, you see anything?
The only other thing I can add into that as far as the contingencies goes is, like you had mentioned before, Steve, where we had problems with the system, sergeant came in. I mean, we're then gonna have 3 different duplications or 3 different things that are working in our jail. I'd like to also have it that it's knowing that they can do stuff compatible with what's already in there, so that we don't have this thing expanding larger.
But you're putting a whole new system in.
No, this is a repair and replacement. Repair can be fixed, replaced what needs. I believe from, because these companies call up once in a while and want clarification on the bid document that I sent out. Some of it was, I think that Legacy and SGTS are looking at 2 different types of platforms. One being kind of what we use now. It's called a product through a German company, Bosch. Sounds like lips and blurps to me. But Legacy is looking at more of a cloud format where you're putting, and I don't understand it, but you're storing things in the clouds. And I don't think literally, but in places outside your department. Is that appropriate? So there's 2 different formats. I would like to see who's got these that are local, like maybe Marinette or whoever. I haven't looked at the documents, whoever has these guys, whoever has these guys, and find out if they're happy. The company that first did the bidding for us, I would allow to bid this time around and off. I said, don't even bother, won't even entertain it. It didn't work.
Is there a time on there, Steve? A time limit on to those prices, as they're good for 60 days?
I believe in 90 days.
90 days?
I believe so. I would have to read through the actual bid document, and I don't have that right in front of me. But I know there was I believe it was 90 days. And I can make a few phone calls and find some things out longer for that.
Well, there's a motion on the floor. Ken, do you want to change the motion or not?
My motion is that we approve it contingent upon future information that Steve receives, and he can report back to the committee on that.
Can you
We
say
know
that it's
by
for the
next week.
legacy, right?
Right.
Next week's gonna be tough.
Is there any other
I would
discussion?
think by the next week.
I just wanted
Sure.
to know that we don't run into the same problem as we did with the sheriff's department. Will this equipment be compatible with what we already have?
That is what's in the bid document. That's what we put in the bid document, that it has to be compatible with what we have. Now, I believe that SGTS is talking exclusively Bosch and DeVos equipment, which would be, it's the same company, so I would think it would be compatible. I don't. The other one I don't know is going in that direction. I would have to find that out. you know, it doesn't mean that just because it doesn't have the same brand name doesn't mean it isn't compatible. You can put a different kind of nut on a different kind of screw. It doesn't have to be the same nut every single time, but made by the same company. But part of the bidding document was that it had to be compatible with what we had. So if they're saying it is, and then halfway through it isn't, I think we would have more than grounds to say, well, hey, then fix it. This is at your cost. You said it was compatible, it ain't working.
Do I hear a second?
I'm gonna second Ken's motion. That was to accept the lowest bid, Ken, correct? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Nobody was opposed. How do you like that? You were waiting on it.
But I have a question. Are you going to check references on Legacy alone or on
No,
both?
on both.
Okay, just so it's clear.
I guess I'd be as fair as possible. I would check the same references and stuff for both of them to see if they're what we want.
And then you'll report back at our next meeting.
Yes.
Is the IT department involved in this any? They give you recommendations or advice?
Yeah, they were there. We had a pre-meeting with any vendors that were interested. It was about 2 weeks ago, on a Wednesday afternoon, I believe it was, and Matt from TS, he came over and he was there to answer any of those technical questions that are well beyond. You know, I'm the user. I know how to make it,
Turn it on.
turn it on and off, and what I want to see. As far as what's going on behind that, maybe don't have a clue.
I bet I was working that day. I didn't come down.
We're ready to move on then? Okay. Policy and procedure for regarding bond and inmate commissary transfer.
Okay, in front of you, you should have received a policy that we've had implemented now for a month or better on how we are moving our bond and bail monies through the jail over to the clerk of court's office, treasurer's office, and wherever else it needs to go. That policy is, we had a policy previous, but this policy tightens it down even further. Much less, many fewer people are involved in the transfer. It's not going from hand to hand to hand. Fewer people involved, more accountability, a lot more signatures and signing on the dotted lines and double lock bank bags and so on as we transfer this. However, I thought of or we thought of another thing that we could probably do here is not accept any bond money at all. You know, again, first time in 19 years, tragic that it happened, unfortunate that it happened, whatever happened. But at the same token, we can pretty much alleviate it by not taking it. If somebody wants to bond out, you know, little Johnny, sorry, John, at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, they either better have a credit card or they can go down to Quick Trip and pick up a money order for 99 cents. Bring that back and we'll let Johnny out. Take care of the cash completely. A lot smaller policy.
I think that's something though, Steve, that should be offered. Credit card, there is a charge.
Oh, yes, and we do take credit cards now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there is an additional charge for use of that.
Generally 3%.
Well,
And-
the company that we use, government pay or something, GovPay, depending on the amount of the bond, dictates the fee. So if it's a small bond, smaller fee. So the larger that bond gets, that fee can ramp up there pretty quick. But again, the money order is 99 cents per money order. Checked with them this morning. They're open 24/7, 365. He said, just like the jail. That's just another option.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know, do we want to go down that? How much of a reaction do we want over, an unfortunate episode? But that's an option. In front of you is the policy that we have currently, or is in place.
Question. Did you walk through this?
Several dozen times.
That it works?
Yes.
Okay, because it sounds.
I got writer's cramp, but I did walk through it with Karen several times, yes.
I think there's one correction on, it's just an editorial correction on the front page, but that's minor, so.
Be careful, this is office conceit here.
Well, if you go down to A,
Yes, sir.
and you go to the fourth line, I think that first, the in the should not be in there.
The fourth one.
To the amount listed.
To the
In
amount
the
listed in the
on.
I gotcha. Okay.
So eliminate in the.
I'm thinking that you should, because.
I think it was multiple choice, sir. I'm just figuring whoever was reading it could pick the two words they wanted to that. No.
But then you gotta do it in all of them. So.
Yes, I gotcha. Yeah, because I was just cutting and pasting from that point on. You're correct. Okay, I'll take care of in the, on the. But yes, I walked through it. Good question. Several times, the day shift sergeants walked through it. It just takes another security staff personnel. Doesn't always have to be me. Doesn't always have to be the sergeant. Just another body that can co-sign and sign on lines, receipts, envelopes, and so on. Clerk of court went flawless with them. Treasurer's office the first day had a little hiccup. It took about a minute and a half to resolve. It's been flawless. I mean, between the transfer, no problem whatsoever. But keep in mind, there's always other options.
I think at
Do away with that.
any point in time, like this last issue, our committee should have been notified immediately. I strongly feel that. At least at the very next meeting, we should have been notified.
I think if you look at section 5B, that you're gonna add a sentence to 5B.
Okay. I think I know where you're going.
Just have something in there and
Okay.
agree.
To support what Bert's talking about here?
Yeah.
Sure. Notify the public safety.
The Public Safety Committee should be,
At their next meeting, or the meeting immediately following, or whatever.
And if we're in the throes of an investigation, something that's always something that could be brought up in a closed session. Okay.
I think the way the policy was before, I think we followed what was there before, and now that's why we tightened things up a bit. So.
Okay.
Or do you want it just to be that they contact the chairman of the Public Safety Committee, and then it can be almost, within a day or that.
the administrative coordinator should be immediately be reported to that person, and then the committee should be.
So I think that was covered in that B with Department of Admin.
Yeah, that's the Department of Administration that's in there.
Yeah, that would be the coordinator.
Because they were notified this time around for insurance purposes and for reimbursement payment issues.
Diane was, and I think it was even brought up maybe even back at one of our meetings when the 1% was being talked about.
I think that's when they really became aware of the whole issue. During that discussion about the 1%.
The 1%.
Now, the policy is, don't know that this policy will stand pat forever. The other one was good for 19 years. If this one's good for 19 years, I'm not going to worry about it any longer. Yep. If not, policy's ever evolving. Okay? No, policy is ever evolving. It's constantly moving. It's liquid. Things change. 20 years ago, we wouldn't have been talking about a social networking policy because nobody would understand why we needed a policy for square dancing and bar etiquette. Because they wouldn't have understood what social networking was back then. I wouldn't have. But policies constantly changing as things move on.
Okay, so you're agreeable that you're gonna put a sentence in there to include the Public Safety Committee?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, here goes, Steve. Municipal bonds, that's for people that are, is that city related?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a city jail?
No.
So if you get arrested in the city limits of Shawano and they're gonna incarcerate you, you're here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, so they have to then post a municipal bond to get out of your jail. Okay, and then you take that money, does the city police pick that money up?
Their community service officer, CSO.
That's what
comes
CSO
over.
stands for.
Yes.
You guys do that to me all the time.
Their C-
Okay.
You got your toes. The
Yeah.
CSO comes every Monday through Friday, typically, to pick up mail, correspondence, all kinds of communications
That's
that are going
2B1 and 2 guys, what we're talking about here.
are going back and forth between the two departments, and he usually picks it up then. And if there's a bond, he gets transferred to him at that time.
Okay, but he only picks up during the week,
Yes, sir.
does not pick up on the weekends.
Correct.
Okay. And then, on the very last, on your statement where it says history, last page, your second sentence, it says this policy was based upon unwritten standard operating procedures set forth by the Shawano County Sheriff's Department. And yet you're telling us that this was not an unwritten, that it was a written procedure.
Correct.
Why do you put in here that it's an unwritten standard?
I have absolutely no idea.
Okay. How about we eliminate that whole history?
The history,
Yeah?
I have history on all my policies. It
Okay.
helps for anybody coming in thereafter, as long as the history is correct.
Okay, well then you need to, Marv, you should have caught that.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at that, but then.
I think the unwritten standard was not, that it's an unwritten standard is what that sentence says. It's not that we didn't have a policy, it's that there is no policy out there in the form of standard or code or statute that dictates how this is supposed to be done. Typically in my policies, if there is a policy on use of force, there's a code or a standard or a statute that I identify as this is how we use of force based on these authorities. In this case, there is no written authority that tells you how to take a bond that I know of anywhere. So there, I was probably more likely than not indicating that there isn't anything out there, we're inventing the wheel. Not that there wasn't previously a policy, because there was.
That's, so to anybody, and I see. where
Right, I
you're coming
understand
from.
why he's thinking what he's thinking, no doubt. But the reason it was in there is because there's no standard code or statutory authority
Like what-
directing this type of task.
EVOC training or POS
Right.
training, you got certain standards that you have to follow by state. So those are written policies that we kind of mimic or boilerplate.
Mhm.
But on this one here, like Steve said, we had a policy, we seen deficiencies with it now after what took place, and we're correcting these deficiencies according to what we see. We're not following any written policy by any other standards. So yeah, I can see where you got that question on that, Mike, as far as unwritten goes.
I sure, I really do like the idea of no cash. I really truly like that.
Well, again, it's evolving, policy's evolving. We can look at it another time. We could discuss it here. It's up to you guys.
If all it takes is a man to go to Quick Trip and her wife or whatever, she's gotta have or he's gotta have cash anyways. I mean, to get him, you know, you're talking cash at the bank or at the jail here. That if they take that same cash and get a money order, why is that wrong? Why
Or
why
during
not
the
do
week, they
that?
can go to their pay.
I think you gotta leave that cash option open.
I don't see why we have to. At the,
Somebody comes in at 3 in the morning to
And
pick
goes
their
to
kid up
Crip.
who got nailed for whatever,
they drive all
and they're
down.
already mad as a wet hen, and they walk in here to bond that kid out with $500. Are they gonna wanna go to Quick Trip yet? Nah, bad idea. Bad
I'm
idea.
telling you, with all that is
You
happening.
don't have any little kids.
I did. I raised them. I did not have that problem.
I've
But
bonded people out already, and at
The-
3 in the
the
morning, I'm
fact-
not running to Quick Trip.
the fact is, it's only Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for one thing. But
What's
the-
that?
If you want.
No, that would be all the time.
Okay, then let's do it all the time. But look at the hassle we've had over $1,000 right now. You've had closed meetings and everything
We
else.
didn't have money bags before either, did we? Yeah, that's,
And we didn't have a problem for that.
I was floored when you told me you were just walking it over there in envelopes without money bags or a suitcase or a briefcase.
How many bonds do you think we're carrying over?
Well, I don't know, well, I'm not talking a big suitcase, man.
Well, I'd like to still make the motion that we go cashless. I don't hear a second. I'll withdraw my motion. So I guess we need a motion to accept this policy then, is that correct?
I would imagine.
Okay. No?
I don't think so. I
This is it
It's a
then.
department.
I'll make the changes.
I think we should make a motion to accept it. What do you think, Ken? Huh? I'm gonna make a motion to accept this as amended, with the amended corrections which are right here, and adding Public Safety Committee to be also notified, and the history aspect.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nobody.
You didn't vote no?
Well,
okay.
I
I'm
said
just
I
kidding,
said my
yeah.
statement. I know.
Kidding, man.
I know. I ain't done yet today. I'm good for about 3 no's.
I know you're
Yeah,
not.
but you have to use them all on me.
No, I passed. Okay, County Personnel Policy Handbook.
Okay, last month in public comment, I think I brought up the fact that you're going to have a short turnaround between the time you get it to county board. For whatever reason, don't know, don't care. Whatever reason it wasn't on the county board agenda for August, I guess it was going to be on for September.
Because it was too short of a time.
Oh, okay, okay, there you go. Well,
Bert didn't have time to read it.
I'm prophetic.
I didn't.
So now the issue is that you guys have now received the policy. You got a copy of that handbook?
At home.
Okay. The issue is that since then, or prior to that, when we were talking last month, the handbook was given out to department heads and some division heads and so on. And we were, as a group, the mouse in the pocket theory, we discussed it, came up with several questions, concerns, edits, and so on, just like you guys did with the policy. What the admin committee did with that, with all those, not just from the sheriff's department, but I'm sure I know, maintenance, I am sure, highway department, I'm sure a lot of departments put in their input. I don't know what the admin committee did. I don't know, and I don't know if I have to know. I'm not saying that they did anything wrong. I'm just saying that I don't know if any of the suggestions that we, 91 comments that we made in the 85 pages or 86 pages were adopted by them into the new policy handbook that you folks have.
And you
So,
don't have a copy of
The
that?
same one you have.
Pardon?
So I think the one we have, or had, or got, was the same one that you got.
You believe it's the same one, so they didn't make any change, you don't believe they made any changes
Well, we
between.
didn't
Well, we don't know.
get a
We
review.
have no idea.
The next part of the problem that we have, and that I have, is that, again, there's 82 pages, 91 comments. We formatted ours into an Adobe Acrobat format, which I'm trying to find a very easy way, and I'm working with TS and Angela to come up with a way, because I don't want to sit here. It took 2.5 years for them to get to this point. I don't want to sit here for 2.5 years going through 91 comments. I don't think anybody does. So what I wanted to do was get this to you, tell you that this document is coming with our 91 comments in a format that I can mail to you at your leisure. You can sit there, decide what you want to do with it. You want to put something in there, fine, great. You want to use it when you get to the county board floor and say, what about this? Fine, great. You want to dismiss all 91 comments altogether on an individual level? Fine. Don't. It's up to you. The problem is I can't find that format right now. Angela's helping me to get this to you in a succinct fashion. Right now, what I'd be handing you is about 160 pages. Okay, thank you for that. Yes, you don't want 160 pages and try to ferret through comments versus the actual document. So within the next couple of days, Angela and I are going to come up with a format that I can actually bring to you or mail to you. And that's the only part of this that I wanted to say. Our comments as a group will be forwarded to you individually in the mail, or if you prefer, in an email, whatever. You can look over the comments, digest them, whatever. We wanted to bring you our concerns. We didn't want to necessarily sit here and debate them. Okay? Because the decision's ultimately up to you guys. Knowing full well, all we're concerned about is that when this document gets approved, any changes to that document from that point on are going to be in the form of resolution. And if something doesn't work for us, and we want to change from that point on, we're going to have to go in there and get come through you, go through another committee, go to county board to get it changed. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for all the other departments in the county either. Maybe it's something unique. But they say, oh crap, this is something that we could use, but we need to tailor it for the highway department. So now they're going to come with a resolution. All I'm saying is after 2.5 years, you want to present the best kick at the cat that you can the first time around. And I think the best way to do that is to have you privy to and alerted to the concerns we have with that document. What you do with those concerns on the county board floor is your business. I can't stand up and start screaming at you. You've made your mind. You made up your mind. This is something that I am going to argue. Mike and I were talking about this earlier. Choose which cross you're going to die on. Is this an argument that you're going to die on a small cross, or are you going to go for the big one? So I'm going to just letting you know, so I don't take up too much more of everybody else's time here, that when I get a format with Angela over at TS that is palatable, I'll be sending that off to you, and then you guys can read it at your leisure, decide which cross it is on each one of the issues you have.
That county board meeting is the,
Well, I certainly don't want to send you 168 pages.
oh no, don't send me that.
No.
I'll use it for kindling.
My comments to go along with Steve is that you know, it started out being that there was team players put together in a group from the different departments, different offices to formulate this. It got put down to where one supervisor was working with the attorney to put this together. And my concerns were twofold. One is that when you read through this, I mean, okay, Act 10 has basically done away with a lot of unions, but we're still dealing with people. And at the same time, it's like, I think before somebody who wants to come work for Shawano County comes to work for them or even wants to, maybe that policy book should be given to them, because about the same time that this was being brought up is that we have to push it forward to the August meeting. There was a training tape that was being handed around by Judy Rank out of Human Resources. It was sexual harassment and bullying. And my goodness, for as many times as that handbook refers to is that you are an employee at will. I mean, how many doggone times does a person have to be reminded you're an employee at will? I mean, that's a morale buster right there. The other thing that I'm concerned with, and you know, we brought to you the new policy that's in the jail, but even at that one admin meeting that I went to, even the attorney that works for the county realizes that there's sheriff's authority involved with office people for the sheriff's department. That actually there's two sets of rules. What I was told is, oh, good, Randy, now you got 2 kicks at the can, which I want to be fair and equal to my employees, and I think some people that maybe put this together are looking at it as that I do have 2 kicks at the can now for an employee. I don't want that. There is sheriff's authority over employees at the sheriff's office. We set up the policies according to the sheriff's authority and what standards, like what we talked about, unwritten and written policies. And I think the committee that put this together is looking more towards pushing their agenda on the sheriff's authority rather than the sheriff being able to assert his authority, which is in the Constitution. So that's my concern on it, folks.
I can't believe that your department would be the only ones that wouldn't have some comment, because I know there was another department that talked about this employee at will concern. And,
I like Supervisor Kraus's comment in the paper where he says we're still dealing with human beings.
if that was today's paper, yes.
That was, I think, last week. Yeah, last week.
And you're right, I know there's other departments that have forwarded their concerns to the admin committee. What admin committee adopted and didn't, I'm unaware of, I don't know. And we aren't diminishing all the committees that have worked on this thing for the last 2.5 years, or anybody's effort. It's just that if we're going to do it, let's try to get it about as right as we can the first time around. You know, so there you can look forward to my 160.
No,
No.
Bring it down, but I'd like it in the mail.
Okay, yes, sir. Mail?
Yeah, I don't.
Gentlemen, mail?
Dave, yes.
Okay.
I had that written down as my comment and committee comments, but I definitely would like to see a list of what you came up with.
And if there's something you don't like in there that said, remember, all of us got a piece of this. Don't just look at Steve Burrows on this one. Okay, well, we'll see, it was Kathy, I believe. I was just the recording secretary at the time.
Is this a small cross?
Yeah, this is a small cross. I ain't gonna go up there.
You know, I served on that transition committee, and at our final meeting when we had it all ready to move on to the administrative committee, the administrative committee was going to look at it, and it's there that they're supposed to return that copy back to the transition committee on any changes they made. That didn't happen. They didn't make any changes. One board member and a lawyer made the changes, and that's wrong. That's wrong, and it's not, shouldn't be accepted. We as supervisors should not accept that.
But that was voted on by the administrative committee.
There was one member that worked with it. Yes, it was approved
But the committee
by the
approved it.
committee. Yep.
Do you know what the vote was?
No, I don't.
But they're even talking about one committee. one
one
committee making a
committee,
decision.
you know.
Well, it's the administration.
But anyway, Steve, as soon as you can get that out, I
Yes, I will.
appreciate that.
So it'll save about 2 hours of this.
Mail it to me or I'll
Okay.
never see it. Because I am worse off with computers. I don't know how to turn them on.
Okay.
Okay,
Are we ready then to move on?
Sure.
Mike, did you
I
want
gotta
to?
go to the bank.
I just wanted to make the comment that I didn't receive
Thanks, Steve.
even a copy of this thing until I heard that it was floating around. And I can't say I was hurt, but I was wondering why they eliminated my position from even getting a copy of this. I had to go up there and ask them. And then they told me right out that I wasn't included in this. But then I talked to Tom and told him I would like to see a copy. And that's when I first was able to get one.
You're talking about the copy that we were given.
Yes.
Okay, and Sheriff, you don't have a copy of what we were given?
Not the final thing that you were given. What we were given was
Okay.
when we all.
But
worked
you
together
could
with
now
Steve.
go up there and get what we have.
I was never told that I could go up there and get the
Well,
final.
you just heard
copy.
what Mike said, right?
No,
He got the
what
final.
he was talking about is the
No,
copy
no.
that was being passed around to begin with.
To begin with, yeah.
To give comments to.
Well, I don't see any reason why you can't get the same copy we have.
It was never forwarded.
Well, I understand that, but maybe you gotta ask.
Well,
The thing would be is, we would, but then the problem is also, Mike, is why wouldn't they just be willing to give it to us in the first place?
Well, are you gonna spite your fate or however that statement is? But, I mean, if you're concerned about it, why don't you go up and get one?
Don't you think Jeff had one? Because he said he had 91 comments.
Steve.
Or Steve?
Yeah. Well, that was the beginning.
That was the
copy, but
beginning,
We don't
man.
have the finalized copy.
Right, I'm asking the sheriff to go upstairs and get the same copies that we've got. Should be readily available.
If that'd be the case, we'd probably get one then, Mike.
I don't see why you wouldn't. I imagine you could go up to Tom Madsen and get a copy with no problem.
Probably could.
So the 91 comments that Steve was talking about was on that working copy?
On the working copy, yeah.
So then you really don't know if the copy we got was changed.
That is correct, that's the discussion, and that's what you're gonna get from Steve.
So
Find out whether it's in or not.
Yeah. And I'm saying the sheriff ought to be able to get a copy of what we have.
Probably not just me, Mike, but any of the other elected officials.
Well, I would think they all ought to have that. It's not only elected officials, maybe the department heads ought to have a copy also.
So then it leads me back to my same question, like, why wouldn't they just simply hand it out to us?
I have no idea,
I don't either.
you know,
I
maybe
mean, they
some
can
of
do it
these people
electronic.
don't care.
we're supposed to approve.
Could be.
Yeah.
You know, if you care, then I think you ought to try and get a copy.
I thought the department heads all had copies.
You know, the word is called assume.
Just the working draft is what we had.
That original copy, which we never saw, I mean, the departments had all saw, the copy we got in the mail to approve in August the 19th.
It's the final copy.
Yeah, we're gonna
Which
vote
they
on
didn't
that.
seem to think, and we're supposed to vote on that thing, I don't know.
Well, you're gonna get the opportunity to vote on it in 2 weeks.
I know, and I already know how I'm gonna vote based on what I'm hearing.
Well, you're a 1 of 27, Mark. I get clearly stated on that fact, because I've been one of a lot of them. Okay, so we should move on then?
Yeah.
Okay, how about Mike Jesse on the monthly report?
thank you. Okay, I'm reporting for the month of August 2013. Okay, in the month of August, I had 48 calls. 12 of them were cremation calls. There was one autopsy. There was one fatal crash. and there was one suicide, along with 33 calls where the coroner was called and needed. And that's my monthly report.
I like that your addition's been right on the money lately.
Yeah, Ron's got you going on
You
that.
taught me a good lesson. Okay, any questions on these?
I entertain a motion for approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
That was the easy one, Mike, huh?
Yeah, well, this one should be easy too. The next thing I have is a resolution that was drawn up. And that was to up my fees a little bit on cremation, where it's been for the last 5 years, the cremation services were $125, and $125, and I would like to. I've had so many complaints from other corners that I would like to increase the fee from 125 to 150. And that's to cover the increasing expenses for the county here. So send it to you guys to hopefully approve that. Any questions on that, sir?
Mike,
Yes.
what is included in the fees or charges of a cremation? You know, you have 125, that must be broken down
There's-
somewhat.
I guess the only thing I can tell you is that it's the things I have to do when there is a cremation situation. I have to go to the funeral home. I have to photograph the body. I have to fingerprint the body. And that's all for state issued laws right now. So there's and that takes a lot of my time to do things like that. So it's photograph, fingerprint. I have to make out a paper to hand to the funeral home, who's ever doing the cremation. So it's time that I have to spend doing all of that. So it's that. I guess that's it in a.
So can you do all that in an hour or
Oh gosh,
2 hours?
no. It takes an hour for me to type up the cremation permit. Besides taking a photograph of it, and the photograph has to be saved. And oh gosh, what else is there? Well, it's this has been discussed before, but say if Clintonville they die here at the hospital, and they want the everything to go to Clintonville. Okay, at that point I have to either drive here and take a picture, or else if they come in and get the body and then they call me, then I'd have to drive to Clintonville, and that's either by
Because they passed away in our county.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah. And then I would have to go to Clintonville, take the picture over there, and then also tape up the cremation fee so that I can hand it over to them. And then also the bill has to be typed up so that I can hand them the bill from the courthouse here to have them so that they send the check to the treasurer here in Shauna. There's a lot of, a lot of Hudson work involved.
Yeah, I understand.
I'll make a motion to accept the increase in cremation fees charged from $125 to $150.
Like this is money that goes in your pocket?
No, it goes in the county. It goes in the county's budget.
How much is the actual time you spend on cremation? 1, 2, 3, 4 hours?
2.5, 3 hours.
But this money does not
Depending
go to
upon
Mike.
what?
This money
This
does
doesn't
not
go
to Mike.
directly.
No, I know.
Yeah, but that's why I say, he's already paid for his time
As being the coroner.
as being a coroner. And that's all part of your salary. I mean, is this dependent for money in the budget to pay for the coroner's position? I mean, I don't know how you set, I forgot how you set your budget up. If there's revenue in and to take care of all your expenses, including your salary.
I would say some of it probably is, but I mean, I don't depend on that. What I try to do is help the county. I try to help the county support the coroner's fees. Yeah,
So who brought up the increase in the fee?
it was actually the coroners around here. There's a sheet that's passed out at every, and they were wondering why I wasn't raising my fees. And they raised theirs and I didn't raise mine. So I checked it out and I was low compared to them, the outlying coroners. So I figured I should probably be at least even with them.
But your budget isn't in jeopardy if we don't get the raise.
No, but it sure helps,
Mike, could you get that information to us as to the surrounding counties, what they are charging?
I can, sure.
We need to know that.
Sure, I think, I know I've talked to Green Bay, I've talked to, the surrounding counties and this and that. I know Green Bay, I think, is $175. And others, I can easily get it.
We would need that for county board meeting because after reading the administrative note here, if we don't have that information, I don't even know if we should be moving it forward at this time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get
And
a
is
copy
there-
of what he says?
What he said, no.
Yeah, what Tom
but
Max said.
I understand what he said. Because I can,
I just
How
got
about
this.
if I make a motion that we postpone this till next month, till he gives us some comparables? All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, we got.
What does Menominee County charge? Do you have any idea?
Who did the
I
second?
think
Lang
it's,
Lade?
I think Menominee County is $75.
They're way lower.
Oh, yeah, they're way lower.
You gotta put them comparisons in though.
Make
Oh,
sure
sure.
they're
Lang
in the
Lade, Menominee, Brown, Wapaka, Outagamie. It's kind
I
of
know,
Yep, all around.
marathon.
yeah, I know Marathon.
Lang Lade.
Yeah.
Lang Lade, yeah.
Just circle around.
Sure, I'll do that.
All right.
Okay.
You wouldn't deny a permit, would you?
But I can't.
You can't.
No,
You need a permit, but you can't deny it.
that's correct, yeah. And, you know, it's like the funeral. I talked to
paying
the
him.
funeral homes. I talked to the funeral homes around, and they're not, you know, they says, well, you gotta charge what you have to charge. Mainly because they're, they said, they have to pay it, you know, they just stick the bill in with their bill when someone dies. And they just, you know, they just say right out, well, the coroner demands this. And they give them the bill for it. So, yeah, I'll get that
You
done.
could bring that back.
Sure.
But you can't charge me, you realize that, all them years you hunted on my land.
Can I still hunt there?
You don't hunt there no more, do you? With coke strips.
I quit hunting.
I did too.
Okay, can we move on, gentlemen, then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go with the emergency management, the monthly report.
Yeah. All right, you guys got a copy of my report. Last month was pretty busy, besides the windstorm. That shook everything up a little bit. Biggest things that went on is we had a data call from the state on special events. They require us to submit if there's something going on with more than 2,000 people in the county. So we submitted that information to them. That's statewide, so we met that requirement. We're doing some National Preparedness Month outreach campaigns, kind of crossing into September because that's what National Preparedness Month is. And I'm still dealing with some ongoing efforts from the severe thunderstorm event that occurred. But overall, that event went fairly well. Kind of a welcome to Wisconsin, welcome to Shawano County for me. So, any questions on that monthly report?
Are you done now with the tile testing for the new communication system?
Tile testing has been complete. I was hoping Jeff was going to be here to kind of fill you in. We're waiting on the results from Motorola for the formal maps of how the testing went. But it is wrapped up and done. And I don't have any information on where we are for the RFP because that's all being run out of the Technology Services Department.
I just have a comment.
Yep.
Because I live in Bondwell.
Yep.
And I don't know which day it was, a couple weeks ago, but Bondwell was under a tornado warning.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a straight line winds, I mean, it was destructive. However, our siren didn't go off. Now, and the admission or the complaint or the comment was, well, the electricity was off. Well, now, isn't there some kind of a backup that you could have in communities where?
We're currently looking into that right now. And as part of the whole ongoing review process of the sirens, we're also trying to figure out exactly who's responsible for them. Because there's some indication it's actually the townships that are responsible for the siren maintenance. Dispatch sounds them, and then so as part of we understand because Gresham had some issues, Bondwell had some issues, and we have we're going through the process right now of figuring out who had issues with their sirens, making sure that the weekly tests that are going off are working, and finding out if they have backup power supplies or not. So that is an issue we're looking at closely post-storm. But right now, in my files, I'm not seeing exactly who's responsible for those sirens in the county. We want to get to the bottom, because that's really the root of it. Once we get that, then we can start working through some of this stuff.
So you're telling me that the dispatchers here would have to sound the alarm in Bondwell or Gresham or wherever it is?
They do. They sound the sirens. Yeah.
So if there's no storm in Channel, then it doesn't affect the rest of the
It's based
county?
it's based on National Weather Service and where they're indicating the tornado warning is. And dispatch pushes the buttons for the sirens. Now, when you're saying that they didn't sound, there is some indication that since power was out, the siren did not work. And then that's an issue of there's no backup power. And that's what we're evaluating right now, of why, if that's the case, was there backup power and it failed, or is there no backup power and we need to look at it? And unfortunately, it's a process that takes a little bit longer than we'd like it to. And that tile testing set us back in the review of the siren.
When they have the tests every Wednesday at 11:15,
Yep.
I know there's no fire in town. It's a test. It
Right.
works. But when it comes at 7:30 at night,
Right.
they don't work.
Well, so it worked that morning. Well, we believe it worked that morning. So there's the crux of the issue right now is there is no system in place for someone in the locality to tell us that, hey, the siren worked. And that's what we're trying to fix. Right now, dispatch pushes the button on the Wednesday test, and then we go, oh, we hope it worked unless someone tells us otherwise. So we're trying to resolve that issue of, all right, we need someone at each siren location to tell us, yep, it worked or no, it didn't. So that's issue number one that we're working on.
But that night, you don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to just ask the question. And I don't want to come across as being upset. But do you know, did the dispatcher press the button here in Shawano to sound the bomb?
Yes.
Because Shawano had electricity and
Right. Yeah. Bondwell had an issue and Gresham had an issue, is what we've been told.
But that's where the storms were.
Right.
And
But they pushed the button.
Natalie, don't these fire departments have auxiliary power?
But it has to do with how it's hooked up to the weather siren, and that's some of that stuff that needs to
That's
be.
one thing you might want to be looking at. Don't all fire departments have an actual
I would have
gas
to.
or something
I'd have to talk to
electric
each one
generator?
individually, and it really it's there's a whole lot behind how these systems are wired up, and some of these weather sirens are fairly old, so it's looking at how we can link it, and that's all part of the review process. And the one thing I will say with all this though is, even if a weather siren fails, weather sirens are really designed for people outside. Like in my house, when the sirens are going off, my husband can't hear the sirens. You need a weather radio, and that's the issue we're always pushing, because a weather radio will still signal you that the tornado warning is going off, even if you can't hear that siren. And I agree, we're going to certainly figure out the siren issue, but you still may not hear a siren, even if it's going off when those winds are blowing through. So that's just the 2 cents on
But
the
you could
emergency
be
management
looking
side.
at even an option of the fire department siren to be activated as opposed to your tornado siren. Isn't that an option also?
Sometimes it's the same. It has to do with the tones, how it's, there's a whole lot of issues, and a lot of this is us sitting down to figure out, again, it's who's responsible for these sirens, who's been handling the maintenance of it, and how does that system all interwork. And, we'll get an answer eventually.
Because I know in Cecil, when it goes off at noon,
Mhm.
is that the same siren that blows for the hurricanes and tornadoes? And any other severe weather?
I'm not
That
Yeah.
might be something.
Yes.
sure.
For sure?
Okay.
Hope we don't have hurricanes up here, though.
They only have one siren.
Why don't these towers get tested? Okay, today's a beautiful day out. Okay? Walk over to your office right now and say, hey, we're gonna test bowlers right
Because if
now.
citizens don't know that it's going off, then they're going to start to wonder, and then when it does go off and there's something going on, they're not going to listen to it. So it's a weekly test on Wednesdays, which is pretty standard across the country. It's weekly during the prime tornado season, and then it goes to monthly. And that's very standard across the country, and I'd be hesitant to change that, because once we start just setting them off, people aren't going to know if it's, well, what if there's something wrong? Is it just going off because there's a glitch? Is there actually severe weather? And then they start disregarding. And once they start disregarding, we're no better off.
This issue, Bert, was brought up way back in like '07 or '08 when Steve Haskell was here. And we went with all the townships that had sirens in it. The situation is we operate the dispatching that operates the communications that get sent out to these towers. Now, for a while, up until I think it was last year, year before, Mattoon didn't even have a radio-operated tower. They had to manually send a man out to set the siren off once he got a page saying that it was time.
tornado's on the ground, you were on.
So those towers are not the county's towers. The radio equipment that sets them off is responsible for the dispatch, but even the equipment is not really totally the county's. That's the township or the village that has them in. The city of Shawano is responsible for theirs. What Natalie is here to do as our EM director is assist in trying to get everything coordinated, but yet the responsibility of a lot of the repairs, a lot of backup generators and stuff like that doesn't fall back onto the county. It falls under the village or the township that has it. We're responsible for the dispatchers punching that button to send off that tone that sends off that tower, that siren. That's what we're responsible for.
And you do have a time frame.
A time frame to set up.
The test is going to be done on Wednesday
Wednesdays.
between.
Right, 11 and noon.
And that was set up way back, like I was saying, way back.
But
when
we
was
don't
Steve
have any
Haskell.
way of knowing if they actually went on.
No.
Nobody ever gets back to us and says, it's not working anywhere.
See, when
We set it off.
We test page with fire departments, then we have someone respond back. We'll maybe randomly pick Shawano or Pella or something like that, and then they request that to respond back to us to know that they got the page. And that's when sometimes we find out we don't get pages out to those departments, but then stems, why didn't that happen? But on the tornado sirens, you press the button, who's up there really listening as to whether or not Gresham goes off?
Well, maybe that's where you should keep the fire department more involved, and when you are gonna do a test,
And that's what we're working on, and that's exactly what we're looking to do
their
is,
fire chief or whoever it is to communicate back to you.
and that's what we'd like to do, and it's not in place right now, and it's something we're looking at, and it's definitely an after action that we're trying to achieve.
Natalie has set up an after-action meeting that will be taking place, I believe, in a week, and firemen are involved.
When will the last test be? What month are you discontinuing?
No, we test all year round. It's weekly through
You're not going to
September.
blow the
Yeah.
siren in the wintertime?
We still test once a month. Yeah.
Oh, test once a month?
So yeah,
Oh, no,
through
I
September.
mean, why would you blow a siren in the wintertime?
It just keeps it going, keeps it consistent. I mean,
Make sure
you might
it's
as well.
working.
And again, it's
That's what Cecil does. They blow it every day at noon. They know theirs is working.
Mhm.
Bondwell, they do the same thing? Blow it at noon?
Bondwell's
They
blows
used
at
to.
noon.
I gotta listen for Cecil's now when I know it's new.
Yeah.
I thought Bondwell blew at noon too.
They used to years back, but they don't do it now anymore. Great Bertha is supposed to go off when it's pressed here. That's the one on the old fire station that you can hear all over town, but there's no,
I know Gresham's goes off at noon every day too.
So when a fire call comes in for Bondwell, who pushes their siren?
Dispatch.
There's,
Here.
you're talking about the old days when they used to blow the siren to summon the firemen,
Yeah,
and that's not done anymore. Now they carry pagers.
I understand that carry a pager too, but you still had the siren blowing because that helps them to tell the other people in the community
And it's not
to
that-
look
I don't
out
think
because
there's-
your lights and cars are coming.
I don't think there's a fire department left in this county that still has a siren.
Actually, the siren gets set off when
think
one of the
Gresham's
fire
doesn't
ones
have a fire.
asks for it. One of the firemen or the fire chief will request, set off the siren, then we set them on. Otherwise, it's not an automatic set off, whereas weather isn't automatic once we get the notice. That's automatic.
So they would not set off their fire station siren until somebody got to the fire station to push the button.
for a fire. Are you asking
Yes.
if there's a fire? No, that's
Yeah.
what Marie's point
Yeah.
is.
The the chief or whoever would say, set off our siren, if there's a fire, and then we set off the siren.
A lot of times, Mike, you'll hear that right after the page. One of the command staff will tell dispatch, yes, please set off our siren now.
I think it's good public safety they had that siren blowing. Because all these people got cars on the roads and they're all coming to the station. And they're all probably driving crazy.
59% of them don't pull over for the
Yeah.
ambulance
Yeah.
or the fire truck anyhow.
But I would like to see you look into testing in the wintertime. Yeah, we're going to hear a lot of comments.
No, we do test in the winter. We just go to monthly in the winter.
I don't agree with that.
You think it should
What
stay
I'm
weekly?
saying, why does a siren have to blow in the middle of winter? Because everybody's orientated right now that when that siren goes off, there's this tornado warning. And one in Cecil will go off when the fire department is called for a fire. But I see no reason why them sirens have to blow in the wintertime.
Even during just because it would just be that Wednesday, one Wednesday a month during that 11 to noon time period. And that's how it's been. This isn't a new thing. This is how it's been. So this isn't a change from what the county's been doing.
It's only October, November, December, January, February, and March.
I mean, it's just a continuation of what you guys have had in place the whole time. This isn't something that's been modified.
I don't
And I can
recall the siren going off in the middle of the winter.
I can go back
As a
and
test type thing.
I'll go back and dig through policy, and I can certainly see if there's standards out there for what other counties are doing.
I mean, I can hear the public already. Why are they blowing the siren on December 21st
Well, we
at
get
11 o'clock?
And some of that I think is public outreach, and we can certainly look at that as well. But if this has been occurring, I do see some value to continuing it.
Cecil gets tested every day.
Ours is tested every day, we know it's working.
They go, and of course, when there's a fire, it does go off.
Yeah, it goes on also.
I think with what we're talking here is Natalie, again, is there to assist villages and towns in making things progress. But I think if there's a concern, Ken, in the village of Cecil or the town of Washington, maybe the town chairman or village board president should come to Natalie and say, rather than blowing hours, you know, so that way we got a consensus rather than like the county board saying, okay, we're gonna stop the sirens. Maybe have one of them let Natalie know that she needs to change what's happening in Cecil or whatever. Just so that way it doesn't seem like, you know, this is gonna be something that came from the county saying, we're not gonna blow your siren anymore. Maybe town chairman or village president might say otherwise. I guess that's what I'm kind of looking at, Ken.
Well, I think something should, this was a tornado warning siren, that's all it was meant to be. It wasn't meant to blow if we're getting 12 inches of snow at night, you know.
Right.
Not to warn people of that. And I always believe that if we had a time frame in there when that went, it probably started April, say April or May, through when the tornado season for us ends.
But you're still, and I'll pull, and you know, some of this I can pull to see what other counties are doing, but at that point, if you're running April through September, you're still running most of the year. You might as well, in my opinion, continue it. Get people, it's only a short window of time. People are still used to hearing that siren. And it's that public messaging that we continue to do. And
I don't recall it being done, that's my point.
and I'll go through the files that I have in my office. I thought there was
Have you been testing them sirens?
Oh, yeah. I think,
all winter?
Oh, yeah. I think that started it started with Steve Haskell is when that came
I
out.
want to say it was right early after, within the first 2 years after I took office,
Right.
that there was this same
Yeah, yeah.
conversation.
Right. And it goes all the year long.
Yeah.
Tester. I don't know when they set theirs off for Cecil before.
I'm sorry?
I say, I don't know when you set it off for Cecil. Tabano I know is 11:15, but we
Right.
never have any other whistle. But Cecil has theirs every day. Maybe you have it programmed here that is to sound at 12 o'clock.
Oh, no, what we have is they give us that 1 hour leeway just in case there is something else going on. And in some instances, we have, like here in Shawano, one of the firemen goes over because those are set up, my dispatchers watch and cancel the test at 30 seconds. Otherwise, that would run for 3 minutes. In some of these places, firemen have to run over and physically shut it off at 30. I know Tigerton, I believe their clerk runs in and flips the switch. There's somebody over here at Shawano Fire that does it. So they give them that 1 hour leeway, and depending on how busy they are in dispatch or what else is going on, that's why they have the 1 hour to set it off. And so there's not 11:15, 11:30 or something. It's not like that.
I didn't bring the question up to extend this discussion for an hour or so. I think you got that message.
I think, Natalie, if you go
Yeah.
back to like 08 or 07, something like that, you're going to find letters from different townships, different people, different areas that have these sirens. That's going to kind of confirm what we talked about here as far as, so just got to go back on the old records and see what you can find.
Sounds good.
Okay, does that cover everything on the tower update?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're advising on the RFP bid opening.
And that Jeff Shue has been running out of Technology Services, has been handling that end of it. So I don't really have too much of an update on that one.
I believe bids have to be in by the 18th and will be opened around 4 p.m. I believe.
Well, that's what I asked him because the way he was talking, he thought we had to have a meeting, and now we're talking here with Kathy before the meeting started here, and maybe we don't need a meeting. So I guess I'll make it to the consensus of the board if you gentlemen would like to all be here for the opening of the bids, or should we wait and have the bid discussed and done on, at the
The
county
thing
board
is,
level?
we open the bids, we have to make a motion to accept or reject the bids and forward it on to the county board.
Okay.
So we have to have a meeting.
And it's still 2 days late, because we got till the 16th for this other bid.
Yeah, but they'll, if we get something on that day, they'll still get it into the minutes for the next, oh, yeah.
Okay. I guess, Kathy, the consensus then of the board is that we have to have another meeting next Wednesday.
Because I think the board sent it back to the public safety, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think in talking with Tony, he said we really didn't have to have a meeting, but maybe some representative from public safety there to verify the bids. That's what I was under the impression.
Don't public safety doesn't really have to approve or accept the bid
Yeah.
as a board.
It was,
I think we just leave it at having a meeting at 4 o'clock next Wednesday. We can be here at 4. And whatever's here for bids is here. I mean,
Are you making that a motion that we have a meeting next week for
Well,
bid opening?
if we have to act on it when the bids are open, like you said,
Right.
then we'd have to meet.
right. And that's what I'm saying. We're going to have to act on it.
Isn't that the same thing we did for Steve's bid tonight?
Well, we just, we
We acted
did,
on it.
yeah, we acted on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So just leave it as a meeting. We already got the thing in the mail, right?
No, Kathy hasn't sent it to us yet.
Oh, what was that other thing I got in the mail? About 4 o'clock on the 18th.
I have no idea.
Your
Well,
electric
that's-
bill?
4 o'clock on the 18th would be the bid opening.
Yeah, okay. So we just
I
leave
think
it?
it's noon they have to be in.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we're gonna be getting that many
Oh,
bids.
you called me, that's what it was.
Because the price that was given to us was through the Wisconsin States Alliance, which is joined with Wisconsin Counties Association. Those folks already put out bids to see what the lowest bid was, and to try to save agencies from having to go through a bid process. That's the price that was given, not by a dealer through Motorola, but by Motorola Solutions. So it'd be interesting to see if we could get any bids, because technically, nobody else can bid against Motorola Solutions bid, so, because that's supposed to be the lowest bid, even approved by Wisconsin Counties Association, which I know a lot of members on the county board believe faithfully in.
I agree. We gotta have a meeting, we gotta approve or disapprove and move this forward,
Okay.
because we gotta get the radios.
All in
And we
favor?
aren't gonna get them no other way.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting next week, 18th at 4 o'clock. I went on the computer, Bert,
God bless you.
and I typed in this,
Can the rest of these guys listen to this, or is it just?
no, this is what all everybody can listen to, on this radio councils. And there's a whole bunch of companies, when you say, Sheriff, that there's only going to be 1 or 2 companies, there's a whole bunch that sell Motorola equipment that you can find on the internet. Comtech is a company that they may bid. Tri-County Communications, they may bid. Alltrek Electronics.
I'm not saying that there's not different vendors. What I said is that the bid, that the price that was given is what was bid out by Motorola Solutions along with Wisconsin States Alliance.
Right, but you don't know that these other companies may come in less than what Motorola Solution is, just to get the business, right?
What I'm saying is that according to what we were told and confirmed by a letter, is that the price comes directly from Motorola Solutions, and there probably shouldn't be anybody else bidding,
Okay.
because it's a price that has been already bid out.
Well, that's what we'll find out
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as that.
Okay.
Yep. once the bids come open, we'll know, Bert. So,
9/18 at 4 p.m. And what else do we want on that agenda? Just the
Yeah.
bid opening, right?
August 18th.
Bid opening in
August 18th.
September 18th.
September.
September 18th.
Next
Yeah,
Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, everybody's here. Okay, law enforcement, we're looking at the dispatch wages.
Oh, we have right now some dispatch, so. Does everybody have the letter that was sent? Right now, we have a gap between dispatchers that have just started, that are now past their training time. Usually there was stepped increases as they progressed. That's not happening, so in looking over some things, what was sent to you in a letter and by Maria working with Kathy and John may have came up with a solution to this.
Well, Bert had an amendment, or made a motion last month.
Yes, he did.
How is that different from what this says?
Even though we very much appreciated that, we can't afford it. This is only, this is a $2,500 increase. The others would have been like almost $6,000 increase per dispatcher, the 3 or 4.
Under Bert's,
Yeah, and we
Under the
couldn't
way
do
we
it.
did it?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Once we sat down and started doing the numbers, it was just like,
Where was your calculator that day?
I don't know,
I
when
know.
you said that, I just appreciated it.
yeah, I really.
Yeah.
okay, and you're saying we cannot afford that for this
Exactly.
calendar year
We
or
cannot
next
afford
calendar?
that period. So.
Is that from between now and the first of the year?
I thought about that after I left that day.
No, yeah.
It starts in
We won't do
January.
anything in
January.
2013.
No, can't break up the
Right,
grant.
and then,
Discuss it.
Because that's $120 a week times 52.
Yeah, it was, we couldn't do it. We would have had to reduce our overtime, to like 48,500 from 73,000. We are hoping that if we can keep dispatchers on board, we won't have to use so much overtime. But this 48.5 is just, that's not responsible to lower that much.
So then what you're
So-
saying is we need to, the motion from last month, we need to kill or, first off,
That or,
And then substitute it with what this paragraph says.
exactly. So this will only be 10,
If they end up with 5 dispatchers, then we're looking at like a little over 12,000 increase, and I'm going simply by the 25. And it's for next year, where everything is looking as of January of 2014. And that's doable, it's juggling the overtime, but it would keep the people here, which means less overtime. Every time somebody leaves, that just means there's more overtime, and that's what's killing us.
How many people leave just because of their salary, or is it for other reasons?
Actually,
Quite often.
right now, we're looking at, I've got 4 right now, and none have physically told me, but all 4 of them are grumbling. And all the counties surrounding, I was just in a meeting down in Fox Valley with supervisors all surrounding us, and everybody is looking for people. And they can go to all of them and make more. I'm hearing grumblings about it. Will they follow through? I think at least 2 of them would.
I'm just a little confused as to where the difference is that you're talking about, Kathy. Right now, those 4, I'm gonna say 4,
Right.
are at $16.72 an hour,
Right.
and then by raising them to $19.79, that would be something that was unaffordable?
Right. Because
Okay. I
that
didn't do
comes
the
out to
calculation.
almost $6,000 difference between the two.
How many hour work week?
Actually, it's calculated as 1,946 hours a year. That's what everything is calculated out on.
Everybody is.
Yeah. That's what they use across the street when they're figuring budgets and that.
Well, so then that, what your proposal is that they would receive, each person would receive $2,500 as of January 2014.
Right.
What would their hourly salary be then?
That, I believe, would come out to like $1.28 more.
That would not, their hourly salary still would not be what the other ones
No.
are.
No, but basically what we used to have, it was, and I believe you brought it up too, it was a very good plan where a person went through training, they had an increase at 6 months, then a year later, and then a year later. So at 30 months, everybody was at the same, not at 6 months. Whereas we're looking at 6 months just giving them the $1.20, which would almost be, all these people are going to be over 6 months by January 1st. One's going to be at almost a year and a half here, where she's seen no raise at all, other than the raise everybody got last year that raised her up to $16.72. That would more or less do basically what we had before. You've gone through training, you've passed your training, here's $1.28 more an hour because you have passed it. Hopefully, before I have to come in and say they're grumbling again, they'll have done their wage study and we'll have some kind of program in place where they would eventually meet up with everybody else, eventually. Whether it's in 30 months or not, I don't know. I guess that would depend on what the wage study is. But I've kept them satisfied because they thought a wage study was going to take place, but now we're going into the second year and they're looking at nothing. But yet they're still doing the same job that the person in the chair next to them is doing.
So the 2,500 that you're talking about in here, one-time payment increase, is that, do you have that built into your budget?
We can make it work in our budget, yes. The 2,500.
You can make that work, but the
Yeah.
$3 an hour raise, you can't make
No.
work.
You're looking at $1.28 versus $3.07.
So then they would get the 2,500, but they wouldn't get the increase per hour.
They would get it if everybody else got it, because otherwise you're gonna just have that gap going again. So if the person at 1679 would get a 1% raise or 2%, so should the new hire. That 2,500 is just to bring them up a little bit closer, make that gap not quite so wide.
So is that a one-time payout then?
No, I think that should just go in their salary. Just go in there.
And I think that's probably what the people would like too, because you give them an extra $2,500 check. Mr. Obama likes that kind of money in taxes, right?
I try not to talk to Mr. Obama.
You voted for him.
I never. I would cut my.
I do
Okay.
believe if you got the 2,500 to cover that in your budget, that is not a problem. There is a problem with giving a raise after that. And I don't want to discourage you. I'm not on the finance committee, but there is not going to be good news coming from the finance committee this year
No.
on wages.
Right. Well, actually, I just looked for the 25, and if everybody would get it, I'd want them to be included. Not them get 1%, nobody else does. But if everybody else would get an increase, then they should too. Otherwise, the gap will just keep going right back. We're not getting anywhere with that. But the 25 plus an increase if everybody else is getting it.
I have talked to Arlen about this, and as long as it's in your budget, he you don't have a problem with it. But you would not be able to give the hourly increase because that isn't in your budget. The only way that would happen is if everybody got an increase.
Yeah, okay, I'm thinking,
That ain't happening.
And that ain't gonna happen.
I don't think I'm following what you're saying, do you understand?
Okay, we're not requesting a lump sum. Okay, it'll be $2,500 divided by,
Which comes out to a $1.28 increase.
yeah.
Like a regular step increase is what it would amount to.
If the salary and fringes are not approved in 2014 for anybody, they're not gonna get it. They will get the dollar something, but they won't get any other increase, just like anybody else. That's why it says if approved, the 2014 budget if approved. So then they'll be stuck, well, not stuck, but they'll have at least gotten the dollars.
And that's a good process I can see, rather than give them 2,500 to
Yeah.
Right.
increase their wage, which would equal out to the 2,500.
And basically, that's what we're looking at, is increasing their hourly rate to equal that 2,500, which is a $1.28 an hour. So
Which
they,
basically is $50 a week more.
and that brings them up to like $18 an hour, where the top person is $19.79. They're still not up to the top, but yet the gap is closed. And then should everybody get an increase, they would get an increase too, if it goes through. If it doesn't, nobody gets it, but they would at least close the gap and hopefully stay with us.
Think that will help?
I think it'll help, yes. Yes, I do. I think any effort like that is a good faith gesture. They know money is tight, but at least we're doing something to bring them up with their coworkers.
And in the year that salary, let's say it goes up $1.20, then in 2015, that salary would still be
That'll level it out.
that'll have.
It would depend on, at that
They can
point.
stay there.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to go back.
Oh, no, they wouldn't have to go back. No, they'd stay there. They'd stay with that additional.
That's the new number you would be using for the future
Right.
budget.
Right.
Okay.
And like I said earlier, I would hope they'd have their wage study done, and eventually they could work up to where they would, somewhere in the future, balance out with the top pay, just like everybody else always has, eventually.
She will be going to admin with this also to the administrative committee, but to get approval also.
You know, you're gonna scare admin right off the bat when they read it says $2,500 one-time increase.
Yeah.
I know.
Then why we can't deal with the dollars per
Yeah.
hour increase?
Well, I think we'll change our wording when we go before them.
You know, they probably won't get too excited, and then you'll know the answer is $2,500.
Yeah.
But when you say one-time increase.
Yeah, it does. It does make it sound, I can see where there's confusion.
And that it's in the budget.
It's going to, it's in there, but it's going to decrease her overtime.
Yeah.
Same with down at the other 2,500 after 6 months
Yeah.
for the fifth person.
Yeah.
Well, basically, that paragraph needs to be reworded.
Yeah.
So do we want to postpone for a month to do that, or do we want to, what are what's the?
Well, I think first we gotta kill last month's stuff.
So we still have time to do that, we can do it now if you like. But we still have time to do this when she gets the dollar per hour.
That's easy for her to do. It's $1.28 an hour.
I don't see it in here.
Well, she's gonna do that.
I don't understand that.
That's called an amendment, man.
Well, you're gonna,
But how do we go about killing what we did last month?
Would it be okay, like, in these minutes, the committee was advised that the sheriff's office could not afford the increase that was proposed at the August Public Safety Committee?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
One second.
It's Bert and Ron, Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so did you want us?
No, now we
Well, we
can,
got the old one dead now, right?
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
now let's amend, now I'll make an amendment to this
Okay.
to scratch out the paragraph which starts out at $2,500 one-time increase and turn that into $1.28 an hour per hour increase in wage, which is already figured into the budget.
You got the money for it.
Would that be
Starting
right?
next year.
Starting next year.
Starting next year, right.
Does that sound right to you guys? Marv?
Yeah.
Mike?
I have a hard time voting yes on that, just like I did the other one. So,
That's all right. But does it sound right?
well, you gotta go on down to the other
Yeah,
2,500.
go on down to that.
We're eliminating that whole paragraph, basically. What I'm amending is amend to scratch that paragraph out. And
I think we ought to just table till next month, or, so we get it written up right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
we-
sir.
We are meeting the 18th. If they could clean it up and have it ready for the 18th, that could just be a
You wanna
second.
put that on your, agenda for the 18th?
Yeah.
there you go, that gives you a week to clean it up.
Okay.
I withdraw my second.
Yeah, sure.
Well, no, I'm just amending it.
She's gonna write it up, Pepper.
Right, I'm just
Yeah, and we'll look at it
making
next
a
week
motion to amend this so it gets written up correctly.
Okay.
And then we can work to approve it on the 18th.
Okay. I'll go
How's
along.
that?
I'll go along with that.
So do we need a motion now to table this till the 18th or not?
My amendment is to wait till the 18th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There.
Okay.
Well, I didn't make the
Are you happy?
no.
I'm happy.
Maria, are you
I
going
hope
to
the rest
stick
of them-
around to the end of our meeting?
I can.
I have, I have, under committee comments, I had something that I would
Okay, I can,
ask.
no
Okay.
problem.
Otherwise, we can deviate.
Well, you can deviate if you like, sir.
Well,
Then we can let
if
her
she,
go home for
if then
supper.
she can go. I just have a little bit of a concern about an incident that I just heard about this morning.
Okay.
There was an incident in Outagamie County, and they couldn't contact their 911 there for some reason or other. The line was busy or something. So they relayed a message to another person who called Shawano 911 to see if they would contact Outagamie 911. And they were told, no, that can't be done.
Well, I did get a call on this one already, so I have the answer for this one.
Okay.
Actually, what it was is a gentleman and a couple of his buddies were out on the golf course, and he had an issue, and he called his wife.
Mhm.
He had obviously no problem contacting his wife. The wife called us and said, yes, my husband called me, this is where he's at, and he has a problem. And the dispatcher said, he's in Outagamie, can you tell him to call Outagamie? And she said, okay, and hung up.
Well, that's the reason she got called, because they couldn't get
Yeah.
through to 911.
But she didn't indicate that. She just said, my husband called me. She didn't say they were having an issue with it, or she would have just transferred the call to Outagamie. And I also mentioned that to the dispatcher involved. I told her, you could have just transferred. But being a past dispatcher myself, that dispatcher would have said, can your husband call us? Because what the dispatcher is going to do is talk to the person on scene and talk him through CPR if necessary until somebody shows up. But all of that was indicated to my dispatcher was, my husband called me and there's a problem at the golf course. Didn't go into it, and the dispatcher said, well, can he have him call Outagamie with what the problem is? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
You know, that, I'm just listening to, I don't know what happened out there, or if he really couldn't get through, but he could get through to his wife on his cell phone.
He couldn't get through to Outagamie County. He had tried.
He tried dialing 911, and what happened?
There
Do you
was,
know?
there just wasn't any response to the dispatcher. They couldn't get through to the dispatcher.
His 911 didn't go through to dispatch.
And he said he called it twice. And that's why it came
Yeah.
back this.
Evidently, he didn't tell his wife that either, or she could have told my dispatcher that too. She did not indicate that he attempted to contact Outagamie and couldn't get through. That there was, none of that was in the conversation. The extent of the conversation was, as I said, my husband called me and one of the guys with him has a problem. And she told where the golf course, the name of the golf course. So,
Now, I was just a little bit concerned because I said, you mean Shawano County doesn't communicate with Outagamie County?
what she would do in a case like that is she has in two options there. Can he call Outagamie? And the wife said, thank you, okay. Or if she would have told her, no, he can't, then she would have transferred the call to Outagamie. But again, the dispatch center there would have been at a loss because they'd be talking to the wife and the husband is out on the golf course. It's kind of hard to give any kind of instructions, 2 or 3 parties down the line. They probably would have said, can your husband call us? But if they would have indicated that the husband tried and couldn't get through, she would have transferred the wife through. Okay?
How do they keep 911, Shawano County and Outagamie County type thing? Say, maybe I should ask Jeff Shue this, but you know, I don't know where I am and I have emergency and I'll dial 911.
Right. Okay, what's going to happen is it'll probably bounce off a tower and go to the nearest 911 center. And what we can do is read the GPS off your phone, and we would be able to tell if if this man would have called 911 and it bounced to us, we would have been able to tell, well, you're in Outagamie, and then we physically transfer the call to Outagamie. And we stay on the line till Outagamie gets the call. Not that there isn't every once in a while a glitch in the system. We did get a 911 call one time that was on the other side of Eau Claire. And the cell phone company couldn't explain how it bounced all the way to us, but it did. Doesn't happen very often, but they have been known to.
It's amazing. It's amazing. If you're across the road, say Outagamie County and Shawano County,
right?
It can.
If you're, depends on where you are in Outagamie and what cell tower it bounces off to, it could come up to us. In this case, the wife was in Shawano County.
Oh, yeah.
She was in Shawano County when she dialed 911.
Okay, yeah.
But it could have very easily happened the other way around. If he dialed it, it could have, if the right place, depending on where it is. We frequently get Menominees, Outagamie's, Ocanos, and they get ours, and we transfer over to the correct agency.
Okay.
We could have. I was sitting next to Jeff next time, you know. Jeff is the whiz here and comes to radio and that, but that, you know, I didn't realize that we crossed this line and now the 911 call will go to the county that you're in, basically.
It generally does, yes. Well, now we're talking cell phones. We're talking cell phones. If it's a landline, then we get a hold of the resolution center, which is all the way out in Colorado, and we say, no, this phone is in Shawano County, and they do some magic out there that directs it to the right dispatch center. Technology.
Thank you. Yeah.
I know there was a gal that lived north of town here, she worked for 911 something years ago this was, and she was dispatching for someplace in California, right here in Shawano. And I'm like, how does that work?
Well, you just heard her say that you know your location
Well, yeah,
when you turn your
right.
cell phone on. That's why the bad guys are dumb enough to use their cell phone. They get caught.
Oh, that's how that's done.
So we're looking at, under law enforcement now, the amendment to disorderly conduct ordinance.
We do have a disorderly conduct ordinance with communications, but like it was brought up just now a couple of times, technology is changing, so now there's a revision or an amendment to add QQ, it's entitled. And Tom, I think you did the work on this one, so I'll kind of turn it over to you, Tom.
Sure. I believe you all should have gotten a memo explaining the reason for this. Obviously, this is a result of the increasing use of technology. And it's not uncommon for us to now be getting complaints about harassment, about threats, about lewd conduct being transferred via some electronic format, be that social media, telephones, etc. And the state does have a statute that governs that kind of conduct if we have a complaint. Now, our officers generally have a couple of options when we get those complaints. We'll look at it and determine if it meets the statutory requirements of a violation of law, and if it needs to be addressed that way. Sometimes they can call the person or meet with the person that's doing the antisocial behavior and say, hey, cut it out. Sometimes that works. If it doesn't, then we're forced into some sort of law enforcement solution, or if it rises to a level beyond a warning, we're forced into that type of solution. Currently, the only way we have to do that is to issue a complaint to the DA's office, which requires the DA to do a long form, either forfeiture or misdemeanor complaint. Problem with that, obviously, is I think we're all aware the DA's office is backed up. This is an intermediary step that would allow a rapid citation to be issued and not wait 6 months, a year, year and a half, or longer to address the issue. District Attorney Parker has indicated to me via email he is in favor of this, and has recently commented publicly that he is actually in favor of Shawano County adopting more state statutes as ordinances. I guess we'll have to look at that. This primarily is of advantage to our school resource officer, who obviously dealing with youth encounters quite a bit more than this. In fact, Dan has been chasing his tail all over with these types of complaints. So basically what we're asking you to do is to adopt the state statute into 282 to allow us to write a citation rather than do a long form complaint through the district attorney's office. And I think in your packets I included what the statute says, so it kind of outlines the behavior we're talking about.
I can't find mine, Tom, or I didn't get one, but
I can.
It's not.
It's basically, Ken, language that's abusive, threatening, lewd, or harassing, where the person has a reasonable expectation that the other party is going to get it. It would be similar to me constantly text messaging you, harassing, lewd, obscene, or threatening messages, and the only other choice you would have as the recipient is you'd have to change your cell phone and now tell all your friends your new cell phone number, which sometimes is what we tell people. Again, this is a tool in the toolbox. I don't think it would be used a ton, but it is an option that would be out there for us where we're forced into a law enforcement activity.
I guess if it's something there for you to use, and it's not, that's not going to be the crutch that you're going to lean on all the time.
No,
right
it's
away.
actually an intermediary step. Right now we have warning, long form criminal complaint, crime. There's nothing in the middle. This covers a little bit of that middle ground too. Maybe you're a 17 or an 18-year-old person that, we can't get to stop it by telling you to stop it, so we need to do something. Conversely, then we're not tagging that individual with a criminal record for the rest of their life. We're writing a citation tantamount to a traffic citation. That's about what it would be equal to.
It's similar to what we did with the fireworks ordinance, Ken. Before,
Yeah.
we either had a warning or a long-form criminal complaint. There was no in between. Now we've got the ordinance where we do have that option of writing a citation rather than someone making someone into a criminal right away.
We do this with a lot of things. We have a theft ordinance, an obstruction of justice ordinance, disorderly conduct ordinance. We do this, with a lot of state statutes by adopting them locally.
And that is becoming a problem, isn't it? I mean, what I've been reading in the paper and you see on TV with law enforcement, people are really, seems to be stepping out of bounds, and they don't even think the second time about hitting an officer or, harassment of an officer.
Well, that certainly is becoming an increasing issue. Unfortunately, and I read this just before you gentlemen met today, you talk about harassment and the effect it can have, particularly on the younger generation. I read a news article that said that a young man of school age actually committed suicide over constant harassment. And we have to have some tools out there to get through to people, and saying cut it out isn't enough.
Yeah.
This is just for cell phones or computer?
It's electronic.
Not landline?
No, it wouldn't be landline. Did you get the copy of the statute? Yeah, if you look in there, it defines that this is electronic communications.
Yeah.
It would cover Facebook, texting, the sexting thing where they're sending lewd images, type of thing. Unfortunately, the statute is rather repetitive. I had to read it several times to try to...
It looked like almost every paragraph is exactly...
Exactly, and it just kind of defines that weird line between what's a forfeiture and then what's a misdemeanor. So I think this is a good solution.
Okay, gentlemen, do I hear a motion on the resolution?
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
1 second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Officer Tula,
Yes.
I hope you reserve September 25th to come to the county council meeting.
Oh, it's already on my calendar.
Because
Yeah.
you have to explain this.
We every time we adopt an ordinance, it does require that. I think the perception is we're out there to punish people, where if you consider what I said here today, it's actually quite the opposite.
We might understand that. I'm thinking 20 some other people on the supervisor's board.
Yeah, and I sometimes have to remember that I deal with this a lot, so I get it. And not everyone is going to that doesn't deal with this every day.
Okay, I guess we're moving on then to the resolution opposing Act 20,
Okay, this one.
residency requirements.
This one I took the lead on with this one. I was contacted by the sheriff of St. Croix County. What happens with Act 20 is that it takes away the authority of any county or municipality to set their own limitations on where their officers or deputies live. The sheriff from St. Croix County, along with his corporation council, are asking other counties to join in because it lets people that are in emergency services or police services to live even outside the state. That makes it even a bigger problem for counties that live next to the borders, like Minnesota, Iowa, and so forth, for retaining officers in their own county. Now, Shawano County, as it states in here, has a long history of that, and I know on some of the interviews that we do, and I remember you specifically, Ken, sometimes saying you understand that you have to live in Shawano County because the county, and not only that, but we have living areas that if you want to have a take-home squad, you have to have a living area. And that's because we extend all the way from Pulaski all the way up to as far as Hanover. What this is just saying that we believe that the state overstepped its bounds in allowing local agencies to set their own limitations on how far they want their people to live. And it would be sent then to the state saying, we oppose Act 20 and that it should be given back authority to the counties or to the local municipalities is how they decide how far their deputies or their officers live, whether they live in the county or whether they have to live within the county. So,
This is advisory.
That's right.
Resolution.
That's right. Kind of like what happens sometimes with other resolutions, you send it to the state as being this is how we feel about this. That's what it is. And I know St. Croix County is moving ahead with it, and I felt we kind of fell into that boat. We may not be one of the border counties that joins another state, but I know for sure we've been a long-standing county that said we like to see our employees, at least the deputies, living within the county and also trying to fill a living area that we have. So.
In the third paragraph, the whereas, is that just a misprint, or am I not understanding that second line right? The issue of local residency is not a matter of statewide concern, but is instead clearly a matter of local governmental something? Or do you just mean local government?
Oh, I see, the AL on the end of government.
You want it to be good?
Yeah, I see what you mean. It does sound a little confusing here. Local governmental. Oh, Tony drafted this up. I'm not sure if he meant it to be governmental or government.
Well, if you'd have local governmental, you'd have to have something else after.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you'd have
Local
to have
governmental
policy
control or policy
whatever.
or, yeah.
Local government to determine. I suppose we'd have to take out the to be determined.
Local government.
To determine.
No, to be determined by local units of government.
Well, I don't know, that's a little confusing right in there. Well, maybe if you say it is a matter of local governmental units of government, well, that wouldn't make sense either, the governments that are clearly accountable to local voters. So.
And I guess this is what Tony sent back after I sent him kind of the gist of what was to be. And
Why don't you just scratch a matter of local governmental and put what is instead clearly a matter to be determined by local units of government.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy.
Sure.
Okay, we're scratching from word to word,
Of local governmental.
Yeah.
just those three words.
And clearly a matter to be determined by local units of government.
Just take that out.
Is that your amendment?
Yes, it'll be my amendment. But the way it's stated there, I couldn't understand really what they were getting at. I'll move that we
Is there a
cross
second
out
that we remove it?
of local governmental, cross out those words. So then it would read, clearly a matter to be determined by local units of government.
Yeah, I see, Mark, where that would be a little confusing how that was worded before. So.
There's too many governments in there. You want to get rid of one.
Too much government.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on the resolution
As amended.
as amended?
I move that we accept this resolution as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm still, government units, I'm still, now that you brought that up, there's all kinds of government units, right?
Yeah, and this I believe, Ken, would be not only just for law enforcement, this would also mean like firefighters and that. You know, the gist of it is it should be up to the local municipality. You know, and then it's like what we do in our interview process when somebody comes on, we make it clear, and I think all of you's been through that interview process, we make it clear, you understand you have to live in Shawano County, and you understand if you want to have a take-home squad, you live in a living area, because we're trying to get people spread out throughout the county. And if they come into that and they say, yeah, I understand this, I don't see why the state should be telling us otherwise. We got a long county to cover. We got a lot of people to cover, and we got a small handful of guys to try to do it. So it wouldn't only be us, Ken, but I think it'd be like for local, it'd show that local fire departments, local EMS would still have a say in what they say on it too.
Yeah, whatever is in section 1270. You know, it's not very specific to law enforcement. And we have all kinds of governmental units across the street here.
Yep.
And it, you know, if we should be talking strictly law enforcement, or, you know, what's this resolution saying? Units of county government is the, are we talking then the clerk, treasurer? Are we talking all these health department, highway department? That's,
I think it's kind of open. The way I read it, Ken, it'd be kind of open-ended, as that it would be up to the people that are with the county board as to what they really want to put for living requirements. You know, if they want to keep it as status quo, you know, with anybody who's not a deputy, but anybody who is, that's what it is right now, has to live within the county. I think it opens it up as to that. Then it's back on the local government's back to say where they live, rather than the state saying, well, now they can live any place.
Ken, if I may, I think what you're talking about for your guys' sake is more of a home rule issue. Local units of government deciding where its employees may or may not live. I think what you're alluding to is, you know, we have a policy about deputies living in the county, which I think is important, especially in light of the storms.
It's in your contract, though.
Well, no, I believe that's part of policy.
The take-home squads are in
The
the
take-home
contract.
squads are.
The take-home
But
squads.
not the residency in the county is not in the contract?
That's been something that's been just
Ignored.
here, I guess, Ken. That was just a county thing that we expected.
So I think what you're talking about is really a home rule issue where the state is trying to say to local municipalities, you know, we're going to make this decision for you. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, I don't mean to step in, but I think when you first brought this to my attention, that was the biggest crux of what the complaining was about, is that, you know, now we can't even set our own, local municipalities or counties can't even set any rules themselves when it comes to this.
Yeah, you have a municipality whose hands is tied. They might say they want to have their people live within a certain area or within their village or their county because of, they feel the protection would be lacking if they had to wait for people to come on in. And what the state has done is taken away that thing. Maybe the municipality might say, fine, I don't care if they live outside my county or my city. But maybe that municipality, a different municipality, might say, no, I feel that I do want our people to be here. And just like what we do in our interview process, we let the people know right up front when they're going to be stepping on board or want to be interviewed, that this is what we expect of them. And I think it should be up to the home rule government as to what's set as far as whether they have to live or not live there.
And actually, Ken, I do think that might be written in the hiring ordinance. Though that I think it might be in the hiring ordinance for law enforcement. I can't for sure tell you that about law enforcement officers, but I think it may be in there.
I'm thinking that this whole act came about because of some issues that they had in Milwaukee.
In Madison.
Or in Madison, to both, where, you know, if you live in a suburb, you're close, that suburb is probably closer to the downtown than our. And I thought also there was an issue with Green Bay where their fire chief wasn't living in Green Bay, and their local unit made that decision would be okay for him to live.
Yeah, up in Abrams, I believe, where he lives. So, yeah. But that was a local decision.
Yes.
It was not mandated by the state.
Well, this year would allow it to happen, there would be no local decision involved with that, so.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept this resolution?
We did
Motion.
that already.
We
We
voted.
voted.
Seconded?
We voted.
No, we didn't vote on it.
Yeah, we did.
Kathy?
Well,
What
then
do
you
you
put
have?
down that I'm a nay on that.
We voted on the amendment, I think.
Right.
But we didn't vote on the actual
Oh, okay.
resolution.
Yeah, we voted on it.
Yeah, Marv,
As amended.
Marv made the motion, I second it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a nay.
I said, let's move on.
Okay, well, then
I
we're.
got all A tonight, yeah, guys.
Okay, so we got evidence storage solutions, number 4.
Okay, this, Bert, did you want to?
Sure. There were 4 of us got together last week. There would have been myself, Ron Cooper, Sandy Stanky, and Arlen Tober. And then John was there, Gordy, Sheriff, and
Steve Dreher.
Steve Dreher. And we went out by the work release center and kind of looked things over out there and kind of actually did a step off of where the 200 foot would be, which we kind of had predetermined anyhow, just by eyeballing it. I mean, it might not be accurate anyhow, but
Kathy, did you have the resolution?
as trying to get a first step going to do something is kind of what we're looking at. And kind of what we spoke about the other day was, let's get something going, get the groundwork done. And I think basically everybody was in agreement that we should make sure and get the sewer, do the groundwork, get the sewer and water run in, the gas, the electric, get all that stuff stuffed into it. But I would still like to see us go ahead and put the fence around this year. I mean, that's just my idea. Because I still say if you have a 30-foot gate, when you do construction inside of there, that's not going to be effective. Because 30-foot opening, what do you, I mean, it would be a step, one more thing that would be done we wouldn't have to worry about next year. I mean, that's just my theory on it. I mean, but I would like to see us get that much done anyhow.
And if somebody backs into the fence, who's going to repair it?
If you're building inside of there, you're going to have plenty of room on both sides. I mean, you're looking at it. You're looking at possibly building a building that'll be 60 foot wide. Say you build a building that's 60 foot by 120. We're fencing in 140 by 200.
Why?
That's what we had planned on.
Do you have any money to do this?
You need that much lawn in there?
Huh?
Need that much lawn in there?
That's all going to be gravel.
Yeah. Why so much extra space?
That was what we talked about the other day.
Well, I wasn't there very long.
Oh, you took off early.
Well, I had another meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was kind of what that was kind of the initial, that was actually the bid proposal from the highway from way back was 140 by 200. All along, that's been the size of the perimeter of that area. That's, so, but we're just bringing it up as a thought. Do we want to do we want to do something that way? I mean, it would be a step in the right direction. And according to finance, they have the money to handle it. And also one other thing was brought up from Sandy Stanky is that Tribal Affairs would have enough money in their pot to actually pay for the grub work that the county would be doing. The gravel, the leveling, they have enough money there to actually pay for that. So.
No, they don't.
She's got 40,000. They've got 40,000 left in their account yet. After giving the 86 towards radios, they've still got $40,000 left.
But they had other projects they recommended.
But this would be approximately, I think it was 24,800.
I don't remember. I know it was around 24,000, but I'm not sure.
I think it was 24,800 or 26,700.
And I remember the fencing was something like 17,000, some, I think, for the fencing. And
Well, that it doesn't include the fencing. I'm not worried about the fencing. I mean, but that for the groundwork, the actual groundwork, that they would be possibly willing to pay for that out of Tribal Affairs money.
We move on.
we put it on the agenda because, you know, we've been dealing with this for so long. And I think if we would get something where the ground is broken and things are stubbed in, at least it would be light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that probably doing it all in one shot may have been cheaper, but then it was also brought up as to that there doesn't want to be any borrowing done. And this would be some way of getting something moving forward, and I'm sure if it started with this year, next year, I don't think they're gonna let the ground just sit there after it's been prepared. Something else is gonna be moving forward, and then we'll get our project done, and it'll be without, like we just talked about, borrowing. May cost a little bit more, but that's, I guess, the wishes of some people on the board, and it'd be nice to see it all go up in 1 year, yeah, but if it's done like this, and we got light at the tunnel, and we got a confirmation as that we're getting something done, so be it. I would be okay with that.
But do you disagree or agree with, I think we should go ahead, if we're gonna do something, go ahead and put the fence up. Put the fence up so it's up. It's done. It's one thing less
Yeah.
we worry about next year.
I agree with you on that aspect. I just kind of wonder what would happen if somebody would back into it and we have a fence already there, where that's going to happen. If it happens, I don't know. But that's the only thing that I can see. The other thing would be, I guess, if we do have all the utilities run in, the only thing would be backing into it or damaging the fence, because all the utilities should be stubbed in already, which was one of the things that we talked about, Bert, as far as for, you know, whether or not the fence went up or not. But if that's all done, we got the stubbing in, we got the grub work done. If felt that the fence wanted to go up and it was safe enough, like you were saying, wide enough to work with, that's one more step.
It's according to the dimensions we've had. I mean,
Yeah.
if these crane operators can't operate inside of 140 foot, there's something wrong. And they are insured if they do hit the
And
fence.
that's what I was just going to bring up too.
You
I
know.
think the company should be insured to take care of
Yes.
the damages. So I think what we're looking forward to is if there was any recommendation by the committee here that could be forwarded on to, I believe it's public property and finance. I believe.
Finance.
So that way we could get something going, and hopefully before the snow would fly.
So if you got the money for that this year, where's the money coming from to finish it?
Next year we
If
go
things
back
are
at,
tight.
Well-
Where's the rest of the building coming from?
next year, maybe it's gonna be a matter of next year it's the concrete and the shells put up. And then the following year you finish it. If we don't do something, we're never gonna do nothing. Because that's just the way it's going.
we ready to move on to these vehicles?
I mean, is this something we wanna,
What do you say, Ken?
I gotta see some numbers in the way I voted to support it and get it done this year, and now you're telling me you're gonna do it in 3-year increments, and it's gonna cost us more.
A lot more.
It's gonna cost us more money. You go out and you borrow the money and you put the building up. Simple
that
as
isn't gonna
that.
happen.
Simple as that. Well, it'll happen, could happen, you know, but there's 6 people that control the county board when it comes to borrowing.
I won't vote for borrowing.
There was 13 people on the county board that voted against borrowing. I don't know what your reference is to 6 people.
6 people can vote no, and it can go away.
And then go away, yeah.
Is that what the number is?
Yes.
He's 21 or 27.
It's gotta be 3/4.
I always thought it had to be 8,
That was probably when it was 30.
maybe. Okay. Are we ready now to move on to these vehicles?
Oh, we didn't, then I guess we're just gonna let this fly roadside. I tried.
Well, there's no decision we can make here.
Well, I guess our decision would be is if we wanna forward something like this, that this is our recommendation to try, let's try doing something.
Doesn't the public property, didn't we have this discussion, isn't that a public property?
Well, this is a public safety issue. We can still do this.
And they're waiting for us to decide.
Right. Here's what I'll do. I'll throw it out there. If you want it, you can have it. If you don't, the heck with it.
But
Uh,
it's gonna come before the county board now?
no, this wouldn't till next month if it did.
Not this month.
No.
Well, you're getting pretty late in the year.
Because this has got to go to finance and public property unless they meet between here and there.
No, not until next month.
Yeah. But this type of work can be still done this year,
Well, I suppose,
you
yeah.
know. I'm gonna make a motion that we forward a resolution to public property and finance that we have the grub work done by the county highway shop consisting of 140 by 200 foot. We also obtain bids on putting the utilities, sewer, water, gas, and electric in, and bids for the fencing for the 140 by 200 foot area.
Is there any technology wires that have to go out there and all that stuff too, or
Question?
Not now,
when are you gonna put that in?
probably in the next phase if
When
we
you
have
go
to.
underground,
Yeah,
and you gotta dig it up again?
well, you're not digging everything up. They do it, that's done with the rotor
I'm not
rooter.
Sure, what would have to be done? I guess I have to talk to.
Well, that could be done with this too, I mean, if
What
there's
kind of
anything
equipment
like.
you gonna have out there?
Pardon?
What kind of equipment? You know, computers and all that kind of
The,
stuff?
the evidence technician would be probably back here, but she'd still need something, I would think, for logging things out there. You got kind of at a loss with that. I would have to check in to see.
Wouldn't that be done with like a laptop?
It could be possible. You kind of caught me off guard on that one. I'm not sure what all she'd need to, if she could do it, like you say, on a laptop, transfer it back over here, or if there'd have to be some type of technology line that would have to be run. I guess I didn't expect that question run. I'm not sure. And to say yes or no right now,
Yeah.
without having talk to somebody, I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's my motion.
I'm just, was there a second so we can have discussion? Was there a second to it?
Not yet.
No.
This is just to send it forward to the finance and public property.
Yes.
I'll second it.
And there's discussion, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm just not sure to even spend zip dollars if we're not assured that the next step isn't going to happen. So you're going to put a lot of money into putting in the infrastructure, but no guarantee that the actual building would be constructed later on.
The only way we're ever gonna get a building constructed is to do it this way. Because there's too many on the board that are not for borrowing money. This amount of money is there.
But what about,
I was told by Jerry, this is what we need for this, it's there.
what about the next step?
The next step, we bounce that hurdle come next year when we come back, next spring, whatever.
So we got a sewer in the ground that will go nowhere.
Well, you can say that if you want. I
just don't know.
This is just a step in the right direction, I think. I mean, Mr. Gutho agreed with it, Sheriff Wright agreed with it. I mean, it's just a step in the right direction. Get something going.
There's been a motion and a second.
Here, let Randy.
My hope on it was that, and you folks are right, we're kind of sitting there as far as where does it go to next year. My hope on this, in saying that I was in agreement with it, is that I would hope and pray that if there's a sewer line stubbed in there, if there was groundwork done there, and if there's a fence now put up there, that next year common sense would say we're going to move forward with it entirely. And I know that's
A lot of hoping and praying.
but I thought at least
It's
we could get
better
something
than
moving.
doing nothing. It's better than doing nothing right now.
Bert, I thought you threw out some numbers there, some approximate numbers of cost.
The only one that I know approximately was the grub work,
Okay.
which is leveling the ground out and then putting the gravel down. I don't remember how much gravel they were putting down. It was 1.5 inches or whatever. I don't remember. the
Yeah, I don't
exact.
recall. I think it was just talked about graveling it, but I don't know if it was-
3/4 inch crushed rock or something.
And I'm not sure. if
That
it-
come out to, I believe it was, it's under $30,000. That much I knew it was.
I think it was
but-
24 something for the grub and the graveling.
Right.
Oh, putting in the sewer line.
No,
The sewer, that we have to put out on bids.
Yeah.
That has to be put out on bids.
I think
The
what-
same with the fence would have to be put out on
I thought they had
bids.
a figure for that,
They,
17,000 something.
Yeah.
Did they have a figure for that?
yeah.
Yeah.
But we
17
would still put it out for bids, because that's probably from,
It's however Steve does his figuring.
Yeah.
Because Steve had figured on, well, the grub work, that apparently was gotten from Grant.
right.
The
Well, that was
estimate-
bid by other companies also. County was the lowest.
And the fencing was just a pricing that he had gotten from a company, I think, out of the valley. It was just to give a rough estimate on it, which was 17 something. And then, as what was talked about was everybody kind of sat there and said, okay, if we put up the fence, and then we put the sewer line and utilities on it, then we're gonna have to dig up that fence again. So then it was decided that we would probably go then with the utilities coming on in and the grub work, and possibly leave the fence go until after the building was up, to avoid like what Ron had said and what I was,
Yeah.
some
But
of that.
I like the idea of putting the fence up right away. Get it up.
Isn't this the
Because
fence
any
for outside
contractor-
storage?
Yes.
That has nothing to do with the building. That would be at one end of the project.
No, the building will go in the middle of
They're
this.
gonna fence all the way around it.
It's around it.
The whole building is gonna be fenced along with a fence for outside storage.
No.
No, it'll be one fence will fence the building and the outside storage. The outside storage will be inside of this 140 by 200 foot, along with whatever size building we build. That'll all be together.
That's why I don't see why we have to have a fence around the whole thing.
Keep the deer out.
Well, you gotta fence the whole area.
You do.
Well, yeah,
For the security, that's been discussed.
that's security issue.
Okay.
That's just automatic security issue.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Dead in the water.
Okay, can we move on now to sealed vehicle?
Go for it.
Okay.
Tom, why don't you take that one? You can look at that one too.
All right, Chief Deputy Gutha, who had to step out, wanted this on the agenda to explain this and to explain the alteration to the fleet. I can't get into details on the crime because that's still pending, but law allows us to seek the seizure of property that has been involved in the commission of a felony. We're currently working with the federal DEA on the seizure of a 2007 Yukon. The blue book on that vehicle is currently $20,000, so there's a financial interest in us pursuing the available forfeiture as a revenue stream. I guess you're going to see a bill in the bills and vouchers where we had to front the U.S. Marshals roughly, I believe it's right around $2,200 because cash was also seized in the criminal investigation. And the money from asset forfeitures is restricted on what we can use it for. It has to be related to combating these types of crimes. So I guess he wanted this on there to let you know we were seeking this vehicle. In the event that the Drug Enforcement Administration does seize the vehicle, is successful, because the person who they're trying to take it from has a right to a hearing. What will happen is we will wind up paying them a quarter of the total value of the vehicle and the money we've seized. We will all, the DEA, federal DEA, who's doing the forfeiture work, and that's standard. It's 20. They get 25% of any seizure they work on for you. We will also eventually wind up paying the Wisconsin State Patrol 25% of any profit that is realized above expenditures and Bondwell PD. And the reason for that is because this was a multi-agency operation. And we've done this in the past with other agencies where you've cooperated, so you split up the revenue that does come in. The most probable scenario for this vehicle, the cash will be immediately dispersed if it's seized between the four agencies, is we will use the vehicle in the fleet somewhere, whether that's for undercover work, whether that's for some sort of transport. That hasn't been decided yet because we don't know if we're going to get the vehicle. For a period of time, up until it's determined that it's more profitable than to send the vehicle to auction, at which time we would realize the revenue from the seizure and then disperse to the appropriate agencies. I know it's kind of complex, but essentially it's a revenue stream, and it would be, if we get the vehicle, an alteration to the fleet, which the chief deputy wanted you alerted to. So I guess that's the best I can explain it for now. If you have any specific questions, I would try to address them.
The amount of money you didn't say, did you?
For what? The amount of money that
The car was 20,000.
That's the blue book on the car right now.
Right.
The money we had to write the check to the U.S. Marshals for is actually the money that we have sitting currently in our evidence. The rules under the federal forfeiture are that they have to physically take custody of everything that they're attempting to seize. Therefore, we had to write them a check from asset forfeiture for the cash that we're currently holding in our evidence, and technically the vehicle that is in their custody is sitting in our impound. So really the federal government is right now in possession of both the car and the cash, even though we physically have both items here. Don't ask me to explain the bureaucracy.
Could we charge them
It would
rent?
just give me a headache.
Storage?
Can we charge them storage?
No, because we're going to be realizing the revenue. Had this been solely a Shawano County operation, the split would have been 75% Shawano County, 25% federal government. But again, in fairness to the agencies that all contributed to the effort of this investigation, we've been the beneficiary the same way. Marathon County worked on the seizure about 2007.
2008, I think.
2008, where we did a lot of the work in Shawano County. They did some of the work in Marathon County. They did the seizure forfeiture through the federal government. When the money came through, they split it up appropriately, just as we're doing here. And I guess I'd recommend that we continue that practice because of that. Not all the time is, we happen to do the paperwork here, but in other instances, somebody else might do it, and we would certainly want to realize some of that revenue.